Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, the Stone Age Park Dithmarschen in Albersdorf in Germany is an archaeological open-air museum focusing on the Stone Age. It consists of an outdoor park area of about 40 hectares. This includes archaeological monuments, reconstructed Mesolithic and Neolithic buildings, and a recently opened museum building with an exhibition of original artifacts. Like in any other museum, our challenge is to save and document information, especially practical work techniques and craft skills, in a sustainable way for future museum generations. Because of the evolving questions of this perspective, the Stone Age Park joined Retold in the year 2020. Retold is a 4-year cooperation project co-funded by the Creative Europe program of the European Union. The project's final will be in autumn 24. Focus is on open-air museums, their stories, and how to make sure we can keep sharing them in the future. Our approach is to divide the stories into 2 categories. The first one is traditional crafts as example of activities, the intangible, and the second is buildings, which stand for artifacts, hardware, the physical. We developed a structured approach to the documentation of these, which is followed by going digital. Finally, the stories can be shared again. There are 2 more open-air museums in Retold. The Seehungsdorf-Düppel in Berlin, in Germany, and the Astra National Museum Complex from Sibiu in Romania. Each of us 3 have our own challenges, partly because of differences in size, nature or location and organizational structure. We, the Stone Age Park Dithmarschen, represent maybe half of the open-air museums in Europe, situated in rural territory, not too large and with limited options, but a loyal group of volunteers and friends and an important value for the region. For a museum like the Stone Age Park Dithmarschen, using digital techniques may pose some difficulties. Equipment can be expensive and staff is not acquainted enough with digital techniques or even would resist against these new technologies. But if Retold works here, it may work in many other places as well. It is important to mention that besides the 3 museums, there are other partners in Retold. EXARC is the coordinator, and then we have Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona in Catalonia, Nueva Digital Media Content Production Studios in Ireland, and under their umbrella, Technical Art Services in Germany. To be frank, a tech div project with challenging engineering requirements like this cannot be successful with museums alone. We had 2 Retold workshops in Albersdorf in September 2023 and in March 2024, where other Retold partners work from the technical side of the platform towards the stories we want to capture. In these workshops, we worked the other way around. We discussed in detail what information we found important and then structured that. It was important that Retold came to Northern Germany, sharing what was designed by the 6 Retold partners. We knew this was a test, both for Retold and for us. So, what are the experiences of a smaller museum which functioned as a case study? The heart of Retold is structuring what is already there. The 3 museums had already looked deep into their archives, listing what they knew about their reconstructed buildings and crafts. Based on that, detailed questionnaires were made so each museum would collect information in roughly the same way. Our museum had played an important part in defining what should be documented and what not, but still our staff was a bit shocked when they finally had to start using the questionnaires. The issue was that at that stage the forms were prepared for being programmed into the Retold platform, hence they did not exactly fit on a single or even a dozen sheets of papers. One of the forms counted over 400 lines. We know that when the platform will be ready, this will be much more user-friendly. Another issue was that these existing Excel sheets were in English, and although some of our staff is reasonably okay with that language, much of the forms require detailed input which we only know in our own language. Important to add is that we expect the people using the platform will not exactly be museum directors, but mostly maintenance staff and tour guides. So not only the questions and pull-down menus must be available in more languages, also the input we add, the answer we give, must be allowed in different languages. However, a very important step towards better understanding information from other museums is the fact that everything is well structured. We noticed the language issue as well during the workshops. Where the first time Retold met in Albersdorf, everything was in English. There was little dialogue between our staff and those foreigners. This changed a lot when in the second meeting we only used German. It was clear that our staff and volunteers had a better understanding of why we were doing this, and their feedback helped a lot in changing the approach, in prioritizing certain aspects above other. Based on these experiences, Retold will consider again if and how the platform can be multilingual. In our day-to-day business, we have no time to document, digitize and share the stories of our buildings, crafts and such. Many steps in this process were new for us. In our museum as a typical context for smaller open-air museums, where we focus on visitors' outdoor experience of reconstructed buildings, the landscape, workshops and craft demonstrations. More or less new for us was the communication and data storage until the advanced creation of 3D models of our buildings. We know this will make us more robust, and once digital we can share the stories in various ways, but this is an effort. We were happy that we were not alone and stood close with the other two museums. Still a lot of steps were made in self-education, step by step, with a trial and error method, of course using digital tutorials. We were lucky to have 2 young adult volunteers in the program frame of the voluntary archaeological year in Germany, who were eager to explore the options and get to a result. They work closely together both with our employees and members of our Friends Association, so we ensure continuity in the process. We first thought that having digital 3D house models was something for nerds only, but that was until we realized what you can do with them. It works as a perfect stage for sharing information about a building, whether you are standing inside or if you are anywhere else in the world. For example, if our maintenance staff has this model on their tablet, they can walk through the house and make notes in the 3D model about repairs needed. It gets interesting when they can take the tablet to the museum director discussing and planning priorities, and then the director can even take this to the museum board or authorities. People who would never put on their mud boots to inspect a house in the museum itself, but are the ones deciding about larger investments. But what if we take that 3D model and use it to address our visitors? We must go visit the public where they are. And that is not necessarily right here in the museum. Simply said, we can add information in all corners of the 3D house model and then share whatever. We all know that, depending on who we want to address, we can tell dozens of different stories linked to one single house. But for that, the basic information must be collected and formatted. But first, how to get a digital 3D model? We did not have the necessary equipment like a camera, a good computer or even the software. Technique develops very fast, but still what we needed was out of the ordinary, and without financing via the Retold project, this would have been impossible for us. More importantly, Retold offered us advice on what to buy and what not. Technically, more current digital cameras are sufficient for making photos for a 3D model. Simply said, you need to take a whole lot of photos, hundreds, in a systematic way, preferably using only one camera under stable circumstances. So do not record a bit today and the rest next week. But what about the roof? We should make our camera fly, or better said, we needed somebody with a drone to take pictures for above, to construct the roof in the models. Otherwise, there are open holes in the roofs and ceilings of the model. And what about items standing around the building like quernstones, pots and tools? This time we did not photograph the interior of the building because either we should empty it completely or we should have it fully furnished. As we were off-season, it was not completely empty, not at all in a condition fit to show our visitors by means of a 3D model. This is something to think about. Some of the software we needed for our 3D modeling is quite demanding. You cannot run it in a normal desktop computer. So here again, we relied on advice of Retold professionals. But the software itself was easy to use and did not require advanced training. The names and brands we mention here may be replaced by others in the future. The main software we used for the creation of the 3D models was reality capture. The commercial license can be quite expensive, but there are other licenses for education purposes, cultural organizations and charities, so once exported. Wherever we could, we used open source software like Blender for rendering and remodeling of the 3D models. Another good tool is Sketchfab for the work on 3D models and for the export of bigger data files. Without that program, it would have been very difficult to work with the 3D models outside our main graphic computer. Once we had the 3D model, we started collecting information around it for the purposes we described earlier. Following the second workshop, all the information was processed, but we cannot see the result and how it can be used before the technical part of the Retold platform will be ready. But if there's one thing we know, that is that these data can and will be used in many ways and formats now that we have them. We did not just fly circles with a drone in the park, but we could not try out the Retold platform either. So although we are a bit in the dark about how it will look and feel in the end, we discussed in detail what we thought would be most practical. What exactly you do when you finally have that 3D model in your pocket, and what steps would that entail? For example, if we want to tell stories using that model as a stage, we need to make sure we have all the sources in order. This means going through our archive, checking details. We also realized that the online public will not follow a guided tour from A to C like our in real life visitors do. For that reason, we designed several very short stories which can be staged, filmed and pinned into the 3D model. The visitor should be able to choose what they like to view and in what order. But it is not only the 3D models we are producing and sharing, we have also photographs and videos on prehistoric crafts like flint knapping, fishing net weaving, fire making and pottery, but also 360-degree visuals from our museum we have to share. Wherever we have to take care of the lighting conditions and of the fitting software. Also quite different from what we are used to, the information we share this way is like any other story we share. But we decided to literally go through all the steps of this process and literally make small video clips around several of our Stone Age houses. We are convinced that these digital gadgets will not lead to less visitors to the park. On the contrary, nothing beats the real thing, the real experience. Going digital may enhance the support of the visit. The nightmare would be that stuff gets replaced with a video screen in our Mesolithic hut, but that will not happen in our lifetime. But it was not just some fun and philosophical contemplation. Retold needs results too, and part of that is preparing the so-called white book or user's manual of the platform. This will be a website both for people using the platform but also for museums interested in getting a good understanding of it before they join. So, we used parts of our workshops in Albersdorf to pretend to be documenting a building, for example, taking shots of maintenance issues or filming people who were filming people doing crafts. It felt weird, partly because it was staged, but we hope that these images will help others understand what to do and how. Much of our Retold work over the past years was a process of informing ourselves and then trying things out. With a white book based on our experiences, we hope it will be much easier for other museums. The white book and the digital Retold platform will be communicated by EXARC to all members and to many other museums. Saving the most important stories and information of our museum is certainly not an easy journey, but we are not there yet. But it is worth it. We hope that sharing some of our experiences, especially we in Albersdorf as a case study for smaller museums, helps others told in a language museums understand. For this purpose, we will put some 3D models on our website and post social media information. But most importantly, Do not do this alone. There are too many aspects involved, and we have not met anybody who masters all, both from the museum and from the technical side. Without the practical and technical help and inspiration of the other Retold partners, it would have been very difficult to be part of such a digitalization project. Thank you to our great partners and friends, and thank you for your attention.